Hello again, friends! Today I thought we'd take a look at something a bit more recent. It's Spyro the Dragon from Neca. Here is Spyro out of his packaging, friends, and he is based on his look in the Reignited trilogy that came out last year, recently. Yeah, the newest game, obviously. And the first thing you notice when you get him out of the package is just all the little details Neca has added to the sculpt. You can see every individual scale on Spyro, which is very impressive. And the second thing you notice is those details aren't exactly accurate to the game. Take a look at the face. Okay, well, first there's the big darker purple scales. Now, I always kind of thought those were spots, but it obviously makes perfect sense for them to be scales, but they don't appear raised in the actual game or on the render that NECA's based them off of. And then there's the tiny little scales where, it's his normal purple skin that's not darker, and those you don't see in the game either. But whatever, NECA took a little bit of a creative license and added some awesome details. So I don't really take issue with that, except at the face, where you notice the mouth and the eyebrows are super smooth, just like they are in the game, and then the side of his head has little bumpy scales, and you can kind of tell the mouth and the eyebrows are separate pieces. And then when we're on the eyebrows, you can see real good right here how they're like a total separate piece, whereas in the actual render, in the game, his eyebrows sort of merge smoothly into the rest of his head. So I don't really like how the eyebrows came out because of how they chose to add all the little scales, which they could have left off and had a more accurate figure, honestly. But it's not that big a deal. What is a big deal for me is how impossible it is to get this guy to stand flat on all four legs. You'll notice his forepaw there is sticking straight up in the air. And I think I have an explanation for that, because notice the number of claws on Spyro's feet there. 3 for the ones in the front, and 4 for the ones in the back. If you take a look at the official render from the game, which is on the front of NECA's packaging, there are how many scales on the front paw? 1, 2, 3, 4. This Spyro only got 3 and 4 in the back, and he has such a weird time standing up. And then, here's the photo of the figure from the back, and notice how many scales or claws are on the foot in the back. 1, 2, 3. So you know what this means? They packaged my feet on the paws and the paws on the feet. They switched the front and the back. What the heck, NECA? I gotta fix these myself. I'm trying to pop them out, I guess. Well, thankfully, you don't even need a hairdryer. Just pull them off. They're kind of tough to pop on, though. I might get a hairdryer for this part. Okay, now that those are swapped, he stands so much better, as you can see, and it's super obvious these are meant to be the feet in the back, because look how they have the raised ankle thing going on. I don't know how that mistake happened, NECA. I mean, it's not NECA's fault. I'm sure it got assembled in a factory and some, and who knows if they're all like that. Yours might not have the feet swap, but make sure Spyro has 4 claws in front and 3 in back, because, they are kind of similar feet. Anyways, the rest of the sculpt, pretty accurate. Like the scales, I mean, it's cool that they added that detail, but like I said, it kind of clashes with the eyebrows, and I don't like how the eyebrows are a separate piece. But the rest of the sculpt's pretty darn accurate. The paint is where we get some issues. First of all, the wings. They're painted yellow, and then they have this nice sort of airbrush red effect, but it's a little too light. Like, look at his wings in the official render. They're significantly more reddish than they are here. And then his hair, the frill thing on the top of his head, it's as red as the wings, whereas, it's got like a tiny bit of shading in the actual render, but look, it's way more yellow than the wings are. It's much closer to the horns. So it's inaccurate that the frill on his head, his hair, quote unquote, is like the same exact shade as the wings. But whatever, it's not that big a deal. It's kind of jarring how, separated each little quill is from the rest of the frilly thing on his head. It looks kind of smoother in the actual game. Just in general, everything on the Spyro looks smoother in the game. He doesn't have raised dark purple scales. He doesn't have the individual little scales. His eyebrows are smoother, and they transition into his head, and the quill on the top of his head is smoother. But the rest of the paint is pretty perfect. There's not a lot of slop, as you can see. The dark purple scales are painted nice and clean, although I do kind of dislike how much darker his head looks than the rest of his body. Maybe it's because of the smooth pieces, but wow, those do look like different shades of purple. Now let's check out that articulation. So Spyro has a ball joint head that goes pretty far down and pretty far up and gets pretty good side to side. Just real impressive range on this guy, and of course he can spin all the way around. Then he has a lower neck joint. It can go so far forward and so far back, and it can twist around too. Not sure why you'd want that since the head already twists, but I kind of expect it to go further forward, but man, it's just squeaky and creaky on mine. Maybe it's just a little stuck, but I don't know why, but I'd expect it to go all the way straight for some reason, like he could, ram someone with his horns. The wings are hinge and swivel. They can go really far down, as you can see. It's very good for like little flying poses, and they can go pretty much straight up, and they can even touch, which is pretty impressive, although they don't want to stay there exactly. They're kind of squishy too. I kind of like that. Very flexible wings. One thing they don't do, however, is swivel. Ho, scratch that. They do rotate. You can get the wings to be totally backwards. The paint was just stuck on mine, on both of them, so, watch out for that. The front legs are on these hinge and swivel things. They can actually come out a bit, which is really cool. And they can go forward all the way around pretty much. Then he has wrist joints, I guess. They're ball joints like we saw earlier. You can just pop them off and spin them all the way around. And he's got little peg holes on the 4-digit feet, the front ones, the ones that are supposed to be front anyways. Same type of hinge ball joint thing in the back. He can sort of do the splits, although he can't go very far out. And he can come forwards and backwards and go all the way around if you want him to. And then at the bottom, he has an ankle joint, I guess. It's just a ball joint, can spin around and go forwards and backwards. Real nice articulation there. Then there are just a ton of ball joints at the mid-torso and going all throughout the tail here. Each one can rock back and forth, up and down just a little bit and twist all the way around, although I don't know why you'd want to do that, obviously, but it's just because that's the type of joint it is. And the tail has, 1, 2, 3, 4 of these, and then 5 with the little tip, although the tip doesn't really get as much range as any of the rest of these. Very nice segmented tail. Don't know why you really want the tip to rotate at all. I mean, I guess it's supposed to bend, but it just doesn't bend that much. But it is an awesome tail. A lot of great options with that. So overall, really cool articulation. I don't know what more they could have added. I kind of just wish this was a bit more flexible, but otherwise, perfect. So Spyro's packaging is a not so standard Neca clamshell. It's a bit shorter and a bit wider. On the front, we get a cool render of Spyro, and up top, it's the logo from the Reignited trilogy, in case there was any doubt as to which game this Spyro is from. There's nothing real interesting on the sides. And on the back, we get a picture of the figure with a nice little write-up. Anyways, let's open this thing up. Alright, the tray just slid out. Here's what the insert art looked like before I cut it up. Cool little flames down there. And it looks like Spyro was meant to have a twist tie going around his neck, like there's a little hole there, but I think it just pops out. Oh, except for the tail. There's tape on the tail there. That was hard to see. But now he's free. Yippee! No accessories for Spyro, so let's just get straight to the scale. He stands at about 6.5 inches tall if you go to the top of his horns there. But really his head just comes to around 5 inches high. And he can be about 9 inches long. As always, here he is with my 6-inch Batman and Spider-Man for a scale comparison. And here he is with the whole reason I bought him, so I could have someone to go with my Crash and make a little gaming icons collection. And I gotta say, he's a bit bigger than I expected he'd be next to Crash, so maybe the scale doesn't exactly work. So overall, a very cool figure from Neca, friends, but much like their Crash Bandicoot figure, it is not without its problems, with some weird choices in the sculpt and the paint. Articulation's pretty much as good as I could expect, though, but it's kind of a bummer we don't have any accessories. Like, I mean, could we get like an alternate fire-breathing head, Neca, or something? I mean, we better not see some re-release of this that comes with accessories like they did with Crash Bandicoot, because that's sort of screwing your fans over. I would just say watch out for those feet and the stuck joints on the wings, and I wish the paint was a bit different here or there, darker on the wings, lighter on the fin on the head, but otherwise I'm mostly happy with this figure. Everything else is just sort of a minor nitpick. I do kind of like the scales, honestly. Some people might not. It's not really accurate to the game, but overall, I'm happy with the figure. It's not like A+, it's like solid B, which from Neca is surprising, but I still recommend him. So until next time, peace out, YouTube.